Let me say how proud I am to be introduced by Randi Weingarten. She has been, for me, long before I was a United States Senator, a real hero, a role model, just an exemplar of public service, not only because she's smart and tough, but she cares so deeply. And that passion, which you share, is the same passion we're seeing in the streets right now from our students. How inspiring is that? And let me just say, and I know it's a little bit off topic, but arming teachers, toxic lunacy, still coming out of the mouth of the President of the United States, who is so out of touch that he continues to believe that teachers carrying firearms would be an effective way to deter shooters who are themselves suicidal and want nothing more than to be shot. But the fact is, teachers, like any of us, no matter how well trained, will be at risk of doing more harm than good in that context. So I want to thank you for your leadership on gun violence prevention, which is very much the topic of the day, or one of them here. But Puerto Rico is so close to my heart because I love the island. I have visited it many times. I've enjoyed being there on vacation. I've enjoyed the working trips to all over the island, really, including Culebra and the places where many of us do not know. And I see there such potential, not just because it's a beautiful island, but because the people are great patriots. They want to learn and work, and they are, most importantly, fellow Americans. I went there right after the hurricane. I went at the beginning of January. The pace of progress is all too slow, and the treatment of that island has been abysmally unjust and unfair. If the state of Connecticut, 2 months after a hurricane, still had more than 2/3 of its population without electricity, there would be rioting in the streets. I would be tarred and feathered. And so would other public officials. And people would, and I don't mean that literally, people in Connecticut are very peace-loving, nonviolent, but we are treating Puerto Rico and their citizens as second-class Americans. And that is absolutely intolerable for the greatest country in the history of the world. As Randi said, I've been all over FEMA, the Corps of Engineers, the Department of Homeland Security, as well as the Defense Department. We are still trying to focus energy and change the tax code because we are treating Puerto Rico as if it were China for purposes of taxing investments and profits there, which just adds to the injustice. The Medicaid formula has to be revised. And the measure that Senator Sanders and Warren and I have introduced, Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands Equitable Rebuild Act, has two key words: rebuild and equitable. It has to be rebuilt, and it has to be treated equitably, fairly. And that includes a kind of Marshall Plan approach, which this bill embodies, a comprehensive approach to address the humanitarian crisis that still prevails. I'll just give you one snapshot. When I last visited, we went through one of the neighborhoods in San Juan, and at dusk, it began to grow dark. Not a single light in that entire community. We walked past a school, which 2 months after the hurricane was just beginning to reopen. Imagine that. You know better than anyone, but I, as a parent of 4, 2 months out of a child's life, this was an elementary school, is like a decade for the rest of us. Schools are all too slow in rebuilding and restoring their educational services. And this bill would provide a healthy level of funds to improve K through 12 schools, as well as colleges, child care facilities, mental health services. Many of these young people have been through the equivalent of post-traumatic stress. You know, this hurricane, if you fly over the island, as I did in a helicopter, literally tore down not only wires for electricity, but also trees. It was like a bomb had exploded in the middle of communities. This is what they went through. And so they need this kind of help. Students on the island can ill afford diverting large swaths of funding to infrastructure or other purposes. We need to meet the new needs of students, which means we need to meet the needs of parents and teachers and schools. And so I want to thank you for being here, reminding us about what's important in Puerto Rico, which is what is important in America, to treat fellow Americans fairly, to meet their needs for adequate schools, not just adequate, excellent schools, and to continue the work that you do day in and day out. Connecticut has the highest concentration of Puerto Rican families, bigger than New York, because we have smaller numbers of people, and you know, but the concentration is higher. And we are so proud of our Puerto Ricans. And I'll just close on this note. I champion the Congressional Medal of Honor for the Puerto Ricaniers, who are the veterans of the Korean and World War II, members of a regiment that was composed only of Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans fought, just as our African Americans did, in a segregated military until recently. They fought for a country that treated them as second-class Americans. They had, in Korea, in this regiment, the highest percentage of Bronze and Silver Star medals. So they're not just, they fought valiantly, they fought bravely with tremendous sacrifice. And we have in Connecticut a good many of the Boricaniers, but they are such great and inspiring Americans. I wish I could bring them to every one of my colleagues to show them what a real American patriot looks like. And I want to thank you for your service on behalf of Puerto Rico and the needs that they face. We need to keep fighting, keep raising awareness, and make sure that we do the right thing. Thanks so much.